That is correct. The countdown clock is ticking. Gang, only 36 more days until the holidays. And if you're anything like me, you only feel it a couple times every decade. And for me, this isn't one of my decades that I'm ho 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 in the holiday mood. So I thought, what better way to like try to push myself into the holiday spirit by let's give ourselves a little warm fireplace ambiance and maybe come up with some holiday stockings that could be hung with care. But before we can do that, we actually got to sew them. So let's do the absolute beginners and idiot's guide to holiday stockings, and let's get started with the fun. I'm not really in the holiday mood this year, gang. But you know what? My sewing machine is. She's back, as you all know, and she is just purring and beeping at me. She is just purring, ready to get into the holiday spirit. How do you do it? I'm not there yet, and I'm really trying. So we're gonna get into this together. Do we have any catch up? Well, let's do the Rob's roll call. I love doing that. We've got Fizz, we've got Stuart, we've got Angel and Johan and Susan, Leslie, Janice, Tracy, Elk, Rob. I love it. Jesse, you made it on time. So glad to have you. And if you're not watching live, then that means that you're playing this on a repeat. So welcome, one and all. I am so happy that you're here. So before we get into the absolute idiot's beginner's guide to Santa stockings, I wanted to give you a catch up where I am on my little applique project that I've been working on. So last, what was it? We're on Friday. So it was on Tuesday that I had some applique to do, and I finished all of the applique, and I'd love to share my progress. And let's go to the cam, and I think it's really coming along. So we've got the addition of all of the applique pieces have been stitched down now, and I've appliqued the name of the museum, so the Nitroy Contemporary Art Museum, and you can see it better close up here. And I thought, hey, I wasn't sure if I wanted to go black or if white would be better, but this was all an experiment. And maybe white would have been a better choice, but I'm actually still pretty happy with the way that it's coming about. So I've got a little pinstripe of a border because I really wanted this to look like a poster, and then I've given it a nice 2-inch border around. And I think what I might do is actually finish the whole thing once it's been quilted, and this is now in the queue to be quilted. I'll end up giving it a binding of white all the way around, and so that's where it stands right now. And I'm really for a very, very, very low pressure applique project for somebody who has not done it in a while. I'm really happy with it, and I'm actually thinking this could be a prototype. I'd love maybe even to try it again and to say, okay, I've experimented with some stitching that may be a little bit of contrasting, and what if I blended more? And the one thing I am going to do is really play with the some echo quilting. So I know that I want to stitch in the ditch, and I want to maybe sew just along where I appliqued and stitch down, and then maybe I might do an echo all the way around it. And I know that this is not going to get used and abused. It's going to be on the wall. So my thinking is that I just want this to be in where it's not going to sag at the top if I do really loose quilting. And then the bottom, I might do some grid quilting. I don't know. If you have any suggestions, I would love to hear, because I don't want to quilt this within an inch of its life, because it is a modern poster quilt, and I would love to make it a little bit more looser, just so that it's going to retain its structure, but I think it's a lot of fun and it's coming along. So, yeah, today we're going to be working on what I'm now calling is the absolute beginner's guide to to doing a holiday Santa stocking. And I've got my quilting go juice. I think I'm ready. Very thirsty today. So I'm going to be actually using my my Accuquilt Go. They have a Santa stocking that they sent my way after I went ka-ching. And I am really, really excited to work on this, because I think I may have made ever a holiday stocking once ever, and it was like, I don't even remember it. That's how meaningful it was. And I was thinking this morning that, like, how many of you guys have you still have your kids' stockings? You may still have your stocking from when you're a kid. I absolutely couldn't even tell you what my stockings looked like as a kid. I think they were store-bought, and they were very generic. I don't even think they had our names on it. So, c'est la vie, you know. I mean, that's life. So this is going to be a fun way to make a memorable stocking. And this is actually a great project to give if you're considering that the way the mail's working, not post, but give to somebody to get them ready for the holidays and pass on the holiday joy. And all right, so we're going to use the Go Santa stocking, and what that consists of is a die, which comprises of two pieces. You've got the cuff and you've got the stocking body. And I'm going to be honest, kids, I sort of looked at the directions, so we're going to see how this turns out. And universe willing, Monday I thought, okay, now once we get through the basic stocking, Monday we're going to go with a more maybe a stocking with more finesse. And this one today is not going to be lined. There's no tricks that are going to be involved. This is really going to be pretty straightforward. So what I need to do, you're going to want to pick out two fabrics, one for the body and one, let's go down here, let's go one for the body and one for the cuff. And I love it. Rob says, I'm knitting a stocking while watching this. I promise to sew this weekend. That is totally okay, and I love that we're all on the same page. So what I have chosen, I've gone for a non-traditional plaid as my Christmas stocking, and then I've chosen kind of a nice gray for the cuff, and I thought, that's kind of handsome looking. And so we need two pieces for each. We're going to have two pieces. We need two for the cuff and two for the stocking body. And I've gone ahead and lined with interfacing all the pieces so that we can just get to cutting and get to sewing. But you're definitely going to want to give a little bit more structure to your stocking, because, you know, hands are jamming into it and it doesn't want to be, you know, abused after, you know, you don't want it to be just for this year. So you're going to give it a little bit more structure. And depending on the fabric that you choose, you definitely may need some more structure, because like this one is a knit fabric and it is just so floppy, and as I'm sewing, it definitely needs some interfacing. So I've gone ahead and done that. So what we can do is, I'm going to go ahead and bring out my Go Cutter, and there are actually three cutters that the die itself will pass through. You could do the Go, which is the one with the crank, and then you could also do the electrical, which is the Go Big. I have that too, but I thought, I'm only doing one pass, so I don't need to use the electricity. I've got the power. And then if you have the attachment, I think there's, for the studio die, I know at least one friend, and I believe it's Brendan, who has the studio die, so you could definitely use that, the studio cutter. You can definitely use that too. You just need the attachment and it'll pass through your machine. Now, ordinarily, you can do up to 6 layers at a time, so you could keep cutting, but because we're using interfacing, I'm not going to use that many at the same time. So all I'm going to do is lay down fabric side down, and ordinarily, if you have a solid or something that really doesn't have like any geometric directional fabric, like this is a directional fabric, you could just lay it on there. As long as it fits, you're just going to put it straight of grain. I'm going to be a little bit more fussy because I'm going to try my best to make the stripe play nice with the shape of the die, and kind of hoping that the whatchamacallit, this, so like I have this, these pinstripes that are going through, I'm hoping that they're just going to go straight through to through the body of the boot. And if it's not 100% perfect, I don't mind that. I'm not going to get caught up on that. So I'm going to do one cuff, and I just lay that over my little rectangle, and then I do need one of, where did I put it? I was cutting earlier, and let me just grab another one. So I need a mat to lay on top. And then we should be in business. So let me find the mat. There we go. I'm on the mat. And then I don't know how well I did, but let's see if we can pass that through. Ugh. All right, I'm going to give it a little push to get her going. And then my hand is off. I'm just turning the wheel. You really can't see that, but I'm turning the wheel. And then hopefully my cameras are not going to get locked up today. Boom. We should have one boot cut. And let's pull that off. Lovely. So there's that. Get rid of this. And we have a boot. There's one boot and one cuff. And if you're making several of these, I mean, I would just get myself into an assembly line process. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put our fabric down. And I know that I cut this extremely generous. I didn't need to use this much, but I was just going real fast today when I was preparing. So I've got that piece down, and I just want to make sure that with my lining, all is good. And then the only other thing I need is the other cuff. We're going to put that fabric side down, and then put the mat back on. And I will say, this is really gives you that clean cut to make it easier for you. You know, if you have your paint in your hands, I know Like sometimes you just got to give your hands a break if you're knitting, you're doing yard work. Not that I've ever been outside, you know me. All right, and then we have 2 cut. And then sometimes you'll get your strays. And then this was a little wonky. Let me just get some scissors. So let's try these guys. Sometimes it just gives you a little bugaboo, and we're done. All right, so we have all the pieces that we need, and then I can get rid of my cutting, the go, and we're back. So I've got my shapes cut. 2, is that the right one? Yep, that's the right one. Boop, boop. And boop, boop. Love it. All right, so let's go down. And we've got one boot side and 2. Which, actually I didn't do too bad. So I was hoping to have the stripe, but it didn't have to, and I had this, so it looks pretty good to me. Now, we're gonna need to prepare the cuff first. So what I want to do is, first we're going to give it about, what is that, 3/8 of a fold. And we're going to do that towards the interfacing because we're creating the top of the very top of the cuff. Okay, we're going to do that, and then we do the second the same way, and we're again folding to the wrong side with the interfacing and creating a nice little finished edge. And once we have that finished, then we're going to top stitch that before we start doing any assembling. Again, this is such an easy, especially if you only have like 1 to make or 2 to make. This is such an easy, quick gift that you could give someone. And I'm going to do a top stitch, and it's just going to be a straight. Let's go to the needle. It's just going to be a straight. Now I'm using my 1/4 inch foot. There we go. Just giving her a top stitch. No need to back tack, because when we assemble this, when we assemble the entire thing, it's already going to be, the outsides are going to be enclosed, so there's really no need to back tack. And go back to the second one. And you can see this piece, I don't know if you can catch that on the camera, this is actually part of the selvage. That'll go away. Okay, so now what you could decide before going any further, we know that we have our body, and this could be an absolute basic plain Jane, and that's why I went with a little bit more plaid, because it gave it some spice without having to really embellish. But if you did want to embellish, this would be a great time to check out other appliques that you could do. So like here I have a gingerbread man. If you wanted to do, that would be cute, maybe in a white. You could do some mousse or Mises. You could do some holiday or a bear. If you have a bear in your life, you could do that. And actually, this one I thought really would be pretty. So I have one friend who shall be nameless who loves her pinks and purples, and she's just a lady and a girly girl. And I thought, oh, well, maybe if you did some really more flowery or some like heathered feathers, that might be cute. Or I was thinking, so Emma over at Curly Seams, she did this one quilt last year, and it was so inspiring. It really had more of a Scandinavian look, and I thought if you did a Scandinavian stocking and like maybe put a bird on it, I think that would be really, really smart looking. Going through some others, you could do a star. Now, this one wouldn't work because of the sheer size. I mean, what you see is what you get. This is going to be a big star, so that wouldn't work. But they do make smaller ones. And if you did, like, I could see that looking really smart. And what's lovely, again, I love me some Accuquilt, is that you can go to the website and download the embroidery files to really make those stars pop out just like you see in the pictures. So for this one, we're not going to do that quite yet. So today is just the basics, but I wanted to give you some ideas for what you possibly could do in the future. All right, so then the next step is going to be laying this down, and I think I'm correct. It's been a hot minute since I've looked at the pattern, but what we want to do is let's go down here, and all I'm doing is taking, we already had the top stitch, so we have a nice edge at the top, and we're going to take this, and so this would be the unfinished, and we're going to just sew across the top of that, and then we'll give it a press when we flip it over. So we're already well on our way. All right, so again, we're going with our top stitching. Or, I'm sorry, not a top stitch at this point, a straight stitch. There's one, and why not? Let's do some chain piecing, since we're already good to go. And this one actually needs to be the reverse, doesn't it? So, yep, we're going to be good. Let me just make sure that have this planned out right. So if I look at this, and I know that this is going to finish like that, so now I need to make sure that this one is going to finish that way. So what I need to do, and this is what I did wrong. So actually, gang, I'm going to actually have to do a whole nother boot, because this one needs to be the mirror edge, and I didn't think about that this morning when I was racing through. No worries. So I've got this interfacing, and I'm just going to peel it off because I don't want to recut that. But that's a nice thing about the tape. I didn't think about that this morning, or actually just now when I was cutting it. So, fear not, you know me. If it's not all right, it'll be okay. And actually, when I was thinking about this, so when we go to do a lined one, that's when you're going to have your mirrored pairs and it won't matter. And this is going to be on the inside, so I'm not even really that fussed about it. We get a do-over. And actually, I don't even think I had to pull this away, now that I think about it. There we go. So all good. And let me get some quick tearaway. See, this is the good thing about real sewing, is that people constantly make mistakes, and that's me. I'm the real deal. All right, so I've got my side down. And now it's going to work. So I just need to take some more of this fusible away. We'll clean that up. Make it all pretty, like you didn't even know it happened. Actually, this would be the perfect time to embellish it. Then you're for sure just going to mask whatever it is. We'll just call that the backside. All right, so I'm going to quickly cut this out, and I wish I didn't have to do this, but I don't want the glue on my iron. And then actually maybe this is a good chance to even say, even if you don't have a cutter, there are a lot of patterns online, and then it just depends on how many you actually have to make. If you're making a lot of these, yeah, I don't want to have to cut these all out by hand. All right, so I've got that. I'm going to quickly glue it down. And especially since this is a knit, one thing that I was noticing this morning when you're working with that fusible, that you definitely want to press, and I was constantly going down. I'm not ironing because the knit actually wants to move with you, and you have to be careful because sometimes with your knits they're acrylic, and then you really need to pay attention to your iron settings so that you're not melting your fabric. I don't know about you guys, but I'm generally the type of person that doesn't fool with my temperature settings on my iron, and that's really a bad thing to admit. Like they say that there's some rules that you should follow, like changing your needle every 8 hours, every 8 project hours. I don't do that. Does it, easy for me to say. Or is there anybody else who is a complete rule breaker? Or is it just me? Let me go to the room. What is Rob saying? He's saying, this should be like Christmas panto, where we could yell out to him, oh no, it shouldn't. Oh yes, it should. I love that. No, Tracy, it's not Chip in Boots. Is that like Puss in Boots? Okay, so we're gonna do our stitch onto here. You guys are Jesse, those are more like guidelines than rules. Yeah. I know that we all get, we're just like, yeah, that's a good guideline. Like, what kind of students were we in school when we're like, the teacher says you're not going to pass, it's going to go in your permanent record if you don't pass gym. That's just a guideline. It's not a rule. Okay, so I've got that one finished. And then when you're doing the basic, when you're doing the basic boot, and we're gonna sew these together. We're gonna put right sides together, and then I didn't do the top stitching. I'm sorry, I didn't press these down yet, and we want these to lock like this. So whichever way, but one needs to be pressed up and one needs to be pressed down. That way you'll get your locking seams. So I'm going to put right sides together. And then, actually no, duh. I'm going to press one up. What are you doing? I'm going to press one up. Cool. And then I'm going to do one down. Mom and Pop Quilt Shop. They just moved into their new digs. They moved. They're in. Oh gosh, I'm going to get it wrong. Are they in Nova Scotia now? And Pop usually sits across from her, and it's kind of nice because then you can kind of see what's happening as she's sewing, as Lynn's sewing. Then you can see what she's missing out on. All right, so I've got these two together. I'm going to do front side facing each other, and then I'm just taking a stitch along the outer side of the boot. And actually, when I do my seam, pins, pins, pins. Where do we have pins? There we go. I'm going to lock my seam, and then from there, once I've got the sides pinned, we actually have one more job to do before we can go any further, and we need to make a little hanging tag. So I don't know what fabric I have around me that might work, and I don't really want to waste. I can do a black one. I've already got some strips cut. So you just figure any old strip would work. Wish I had white, but that's not really handy. And then I'm going to press that in half to make a little binding. And now that I think about it, I think what I'd like to do is, I know this might be hard to see, I was thinking about just doing, folding it in half, but I really want it to be finished, so I'm glad that I did that. So now I'm going to take half of, so I'm up with a quarter of this width of fabric, and I'm going to press to the inside so that I have a finished. And so basically I'm taking my full width of fabric, and then I'm going to do this half in half and this half in half so that it's fully finished, and then I'll put them together, and then I'll make myself enough to make a hook. All right? All right. When you're right, you're right. It's kind of fun making up the rules as you go. Wait, Jessie just said there's no rules. I'll keep with that. So are you guys in full holiday mode? I know Rob just said he's knitting some stockings. Actually, he has a knitting machine, or a sock knitter. I wonder if you could do that. Like what do you call it? A sock winder? And I've got white thread, so I might want to change that. I mean, literally, this is going to be, it's going to finish at a 1/4 inch. So a 1/4 inch. And so I'm just going to take a little straight stitch and just kind of put that all together. So let's get out some black thread. Do I have black in here? I have black in here for my bobbin. And has anybody ever told you guys, this is something I really hold to, is that when I'm cutting and I'm going to rethread the machine, I never pull this way because you don't want the lint going back into the machine. You want to draw it away. So I always draw the thread that I'm not going to use and I'm discarding. I always draw from the needle. Not a rule. It's a good tip. All right, so I'm gonna pop, and then we'll be in business. Boop, boop. Okay, can I do this without bumping things? Okay, and then just need to replace the bobbin. Okay, we are ready for some sewing. So this guy is really tiny, and I'm gonna do this. How much am I gonna actually need? Maybe this much? Probably more than I actually need. What did I do? What did I do? How did I get a bird's nest? Okay, let me rethread her. Here we go. Okay, go up. Thank you. And we'll try threading her again. All right, so let's get rid of this piece here. And one thing I didn't do is give myself a starter. So I'm going to give myself a piece of starting fabric this time. There we go. Perfect. All right, so I've made myself, and actually I'll show it to you here, it's finished. I've given myself a little clean edge, And you see that I've stitched just along where I folded the fabric. Maybe you can see it, I know it's black, and it's black on black, but we've given ourselves a little hanging hook. So I'm just going to fold it like that, and I could do a little fold, put my ends together, and then I'm going to put that with the finished edge, the unfinished edge facing down, because there really isn't a lot of turning that I need to do. I could put it in between. Yeah, I'm going to put it in between, and so that it comes, let me show you here. So I'm just putting the little hanging hook, I'm putting that in between the two layers, and so that's going to be caught in the seam, and then this will be on the outside when we flip it. But just to make sure that it doesn't go wonky, I am going to give it one more seam, just so I know that I feel more comfortable when I'm sewing it. So I'm putting the two edges. There we go. Okay, so I've just sewed this down so that they're all together. Then they're not going to get moved around when I'm sewing all the pieces together. So I'll put them in, and I'm going maybe a half an inch down, and then you'll see that I've got just a little bit of that raw edge exposed, which it'll wind up on the inside of the stocking. So we'll start with that edge, and I'm going to hold this so that it doesn't go anywhere. And then I know this foot is going to be a little weird. There we go. It's going along. Perfect. All right, so now we're in business. We're just going to sew all the way around the edges. And we're coming up to where we had that lock stitch. And I'm going to take my needle out. Okay, I'm getting a message that I'm out of bobbin thread, which is not true. Sometimes it wants to give me because I didn't close the door. Try it again. Okay, I'm coming around a curve. I just lift my foot just a little bit. Okay, we're coming around the heel. And then if any of the other parts of the boot have shifted in flight, I'm just going to adjust that. And it is a gentle, like if you're not somebody who enjoys curves, this is a good one. This one will allow you to say, all right, I'm going to tackle some curves. And if you don't get it perfect, make another one. Okay, make sure all my pieces are lining up. And we're in the home stretch, gang. So with Monday, we're going to be doing this part again. when we go to do a lined stocking, and I guess that's for when you get somebody you really want to make them smile. And we're in the home stretch. All right, we have sewn all the way around, and we are almost there. How do we do? Do you want to see it, or should we check on the room? I think you guys want to see it. So we're going to pull it out. And it actually, I love this flannel that I used because it is so soft. That is a good looking boot. There's no holes in my boot, in my stocking. I'll probably only get coal this year because I've been a Grinch. So what I'm doing is as I'm turning it right side out, then I'm going along the edges and I'm just kind of kneading it a little bit with my fingers and rolling it so that the fabric eases to the outside. And this was so, like the curves on this are so subtle that you really don't even need to clip them. Like if you were doing some really tight curves, then you want to maybe clip along the curves just to give it more ease. But this was so simple. And we are going to show you that side because I don't have the other thing backwards. But that is our little stocking. And I love this pattern because you could still put someone's name on there. You know, if you wanted to glue some stuff, let the kids glue their names on there. Or if you wanted to embellish it even more, now that it's all put together, I'd say go for it. Now, we could do one last thing, and I think I may want to, and that's just take a running stitch all the way around and just kind of finish it so that it doesn't look too baggy in some areas and then, you know, like taut. But I really think this is coming along. And let's check in with the room. So Johan, he always teases me about the background so far, and he says that fireplace looks so big enough. It looks big enough to roast a moose in. And all right, one little thing like about me is like as soon as I win the big huge lottery someday, I would love in like the kitchen or maybe my craft room, I want a fireplace so big that you could actually walk into it, kind of like in Game of Thrones. I would absolutely love that. Now, poor Leslie, maybe I'm with you. She can't think about the holidays until the snow happens, and I'm on board with you. Here in Seattle, it's not traditional, it's not usual. They say it's not normal to snow, but almost every year that I've lived here, we've had snow at least one day. So I'm with you. Like, I need snow. So Jesse says he has a family rule growing up to avoid him decorating on November 1st. Just get out of his way. So, and it's Brussels sprouts. Is it? In England, you get Brussels sprouts in your stocking if you're naughty? I've never heard that. And Rob, we'll go with yours. Let's see if we can hang it. Look at that. That looks like the real deal. Like it could be on the fireplace. All right, let's get to the final stitch. And I'm just going to do a running stitch. I'm going to use black. Or should I use gray? I could use gray and then maybe I'll do white. White would be probably the most to blend in with all things. So let's do some white. Fix my bobbin. That was funny. It was nagging me, telling me, hey, you don't have any bobbin thread, but it was because the door was open. And let's go get our white. And before I do that, I'm going to give her a quick press just so that when I do top stitch, I'm coming exactly where I want to be, like it's finishing out. And I forgot to show you, but my nested seams are looking pretty schmarvy. I think they made the good list. And what's really nice about this one is that even though this is not, even though it's not lined, it really is still looking very finished. So if you have a lot to make, I'd say don't worry about lining them. And let me give you the needle. That's the fun of it. I've also got some mittens that I can be making, not knitted ones, but I've got some beautiful, cute, adorable holiday mittens that I can make. That's a new one. I just noticed that since she's come home from the Bernina came home from being fixed, they changed some of my settings. I usually like when I stop my needle, I usually like it to finish with the needle going staying in the project, but they pushed a button that when the needle was stopping in the up position, and I feel a lot more security with and the ability to move my project with the needle down. That way I'm not going to get any skip stitches. So if you have that setting, you might want to love that one. Too cute. All right, just a straight line home. All right, we have one finished holiday stocking. Now I just need some gifts, like some lotto tickets and some razors, and some lifesavers, the gummies, the lifesaver gummies. And those are the kinds of things that we put in our stockings around our house. I am so pleased with that. It's really, really cute. I absolutely love that. And it's so masculine. I think it's really adorable. So let's see what we've got in the room. And Stuart says there is something so Christmassy about the plaid and the tartan. No, Leslie, my Bernina does not have a name, and I have for years. I need a name for my long arm and for this one. You see how I love on it and I put all the stickers? I have never named her, and maybe you guys can help me. I would love to come up with a name for her. Hers is Bruce. I absolutely love that. Thank you, Rob. I think it's well done. I think that's good. Now, Johan says, well done, I get to sit on Santa's lap. And I'm going to say, I want to win this, I want that, blah, blah, blah. You know, he'll say, okay, move on, kid. I'll be the kid, like in the Christmas story, who gets pushed down the slide by the elf. All right, well, that's it. So Monday, we're going to be looking at a really amped up one. We're going to do a fully lined, but hopefully if you're brand new to sewing, this one got you going and is quite accessible. You can clip off your little seams, like your little finished seams and little tags, and this would make anybody smile. But in the meantime, happy Friday to everybody, and 36 days until Christmas. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you on Monday. Bye-bye.